right into it. So you recently co-authored that book, What Happened, Why, and What to Do Next, The Great COVID Pandemic. It's currently the #1 bestseller in education research on Amazon. Could you tell us a little bit about your new book and why you think it's become so popular?
Sure, Rory. First, I'll say that Amazon's categorizations are a mystery to me. This is not a book about education research, although it was also #1 in virology for a while. It really is a broad-based social scientific treatise. So in The Great COVID Panic, my co-authors, Paul Frieders and Michael Baker, and I attempt to make sense of what has happened during the past 18 months or so, not just in Australia, but around the world, how we have gotten into this policy nightmare that we are in, and basically how much we've lost that we haven't recognized and built into our policymaking, and how importantly we can reconcile with what's happened, including within families, within professions, and in our countries, and move forward together. So it was really a very cathartic effort to produce this book. I think the reason it's popular is really multifaceted. First, I mean, I have been talking about it a bit, and I have probably been one of the lightning rods in this country in terms of people who are prepared to go out in public and say that lockdowns were a bad response to COVID. And so if you hate me or you love me, you might be interested in the book. So that might help. The Brownstone Institute, our publisher in the United States, has been pushing it very hard, and it very much aligns with their mission, which is to try to understand how to install institutions and safeguard and nurture institutions in societies that preserve people's freedoms and don't feature authoritarian overreach by governments. Although I should also add, although this is a Liberal Party event, I'm not a member of the Liberal Party nor of any political party. As a professor, I very much make a point of not belonging to or giving money to or support to any particular political party. My aims are very much about human welfare and are not motivated by ideology. And that comes through very strongly in this book. It's also an orientation that is shared by both of my co-authors. So, we'll see how it runs, but at the moment, as you say, signals seem to be good, and I'm getting a lot of invitations to speak on radio and television about the book as well.
You'll be able to delve a little bit into the book for us.
Sure. So we have a two-pronged approach. On the one hand, we tell stories of what has happened during this period through the eyes of three main protagonists, the big players at an individual level of this period. Jane, James, and Jasmine, we call them. Jane is the fearful citizen who wants to be protected and scares easily, and essentially has kept the madness going, first by pressuring her politicians to protect her in ways that were extreme and disproportionate to the actual threat because she was so afraid. She was paralyzed by her fear. And then even in the later period, so even in 2021, continuing not only to demand that protection, but indeed to punish others who said we didn't need that protection. So she has been part of the enforcement brigade, basically, of these disastrous wealth and health destroying policies that we've seen inflicted here in Australia and elsewhere. James is an opportunist. He's a person who sees advantage and opportunity whenever they arrive, and they certainly arrived in spades to him when most of the world got so scared of COVID, and he could be seen as the provider of protection. James is both in government and in industry. There are James types in both of those places, and often they will coordinate with each other. Governments will order huge masses of face masks or hand sanitizer, and the companies that are headed by James are more than happy to provide those, or vaccines in our most recent sort of a wave of Jameses. Jasmine then is basically myself and my co-authors, plus a good contingent of people around the world who have seen what is happening, initially expected things perhaps not to go so badly. I was certainly expecting the fear would wear off within the first couple of months, but then were surprised and horrified to see what happened, and have been seeking, first of all, confirmation that they were not the ones going insane, that the world was going insane. And so they've sanity checked with each other, and then some notion of why this has happened. So we tell those stories through personal experiences penned by, indeed, not just us, but other people who have been Jasmine's and Jane's in this period. But also we then have a much more rigorous scholarly component of the book as the second prong. And in that component, we look at the political economy aspects of why what has happened, including that sort of James dynamic I spoke of. Also the social scientific aspect. There's a whole chapter devoted to crowds, for example, crowd herd behavior, which is something we really had not seen in social science for my generation. And so I think that's why a lot of us were not expecting it. So we dissect what a crowd dynamic really is and how we've gotten into this and how we might get out of it. And we speak about many other kind of historical analogies. So the Prohibition period in the United States, for example, and the Middle Ages as an example of the kind of feudalistic behavior that we now see in big businesses, which are what we call neo-feudalist. We talk about the what we call the bullshit industry, which is a whole layer of people who are not productive and essentially damaging the growth of their societies, and how all of these different factors play in to make us vulnerable to the overreaction that we have seen. And then we conclude the book by providing some suggestions for how we might be able to improve our institutions moving forward to hopefully protect us better against the possibility of falling into such a disaster in future if a similar threat arises.